Today's video is sponsored by Stereo.
On tonight's program, ladies and gentlemen, we have something that's going to make you sick.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jack Edwards and today I am joined by the most special guest. She is a booktube icon. She has the best hair on youtube.com. She loves puns just as much as I do. Her name is, of course, Noelle Gallagher. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited.
So we are currently live on Stereo, which is basically a live broadcasting social app. It's a safe space to have really interesting conversations or just listen in to a diverse range of people speaking on the app at any time. And the shows are incredibly interactive. All you need is your smartphone. You don't need loads of equipment that looks like, you know, a medieval weapon. You just need your smartphone. It's easy as that. So I basically invited Noelle to have a chinwag, forgetting that that is the most British word to ever exist.
Oh my God, when I heard that, I was like, I think maybe there's just a typo in the chat. I don't know what just happened.
There's a question that has popped up.
I just want to say how thankful I am that you two are finally friends. I've been watching you both for years now. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's actually happening.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm buzzing.
So
This is my dream collab because genuinely Noelle's videos have been getting me through this lockdown, this isolation. I am obsessed with booktube content and anything about books. And so, you know, when you have your like comfort channels, you are mine.
Stop, Jack. Are you kidding me? I feel like you really push the envelope on like what's creative and new. And I watch your videos and I'm like, okay, I guess I can't do that idea because he just came up with a piece of gold. That was amazing.
Hey guys, I just want to ask, how are you guys today? How's your days been?
Mine has been wonderful. In fact, Noelle, it's her birthday.
Nora, I'm having a wonderful day because it is my 27th birthday. I'm so excited to be here. So it's a wonderful day.
Next question. This is so fun.
What are you guys both currently reading?
I'm currently reading On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous and Don Quixote for school.
That's a long book.
Yes, it is. It is so, oh my God, it's so long, but you know, it's been hilarious. The journey has been so fun.
You're telling me it's a long book. Thing is, right, I have recently realized that I have the big book fear. And if a book is longer than 500 pages, I'm not even picking it up, not even to use as a paperweight. I'm just not even going near it.
Seriously, I just want the pretty spine on my book so it looks like I read big books, but I don't actually want to read them. So, but this was an assignment, so I want to pass this class so I can graduate.
We got to do what we got to do. I am currently reading, in fact, it's right next to me. I am currently reading Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. It's non-fiction and it's kind of like self-help and it's quite intriguing. I don't know if I'm going to convert to being a monk just yet. Okay. I currently do still have all the hair on my head, but let's not rule it out, okay?
Yeah, don't rule it out. Absolutely not. It's an option.
I also have some questions for you, Noelle. I am going to grill you like a steak. My first question for you is, what one book do you wish that you had written? Because for me, Vile Bodies by Evelyn Waugh is a masterpiece that I wish I'd had that idea. Granted, he did it in the 1920s, but I wish I could do it in the 2020s.
I'm just going to say it. Misery by Stephen King, one of my favorites. And I just feel like it's such a simple plot, but it is so spooky. And I feel like he really nails it in that one. There's other books of his that it is a little bit of a tangent, goes on a little long, but there's something so simple about Misery that I just love. So yeah, I think that would have been great to come up with myself.
You could be the Stephen Queen to his Stephen King.
Wow, yes. I think that's my new Instagram bio. Thank you.
I was going to say, I think you should put that on a t-shirt, actually.
What's the book at the top of your to be read? What's the next book you're going to read?
Oh, amazing question. One book that I would absolutely love to read is A Little Life. And I know that you've read it. And I would love to know what you think.
Oh, my thoughts on A Little Life are complicated because I think it is an excellent book and the writing is absolutely stunning. But I don't love the rate at which it's recommended to everyone. I feel like even if you looked up content warnings, it's not it doesn't really even scratch the surface in my opinion. So
Right.
I think it's excellent, but I think it's a complicated book to tell people you should totally read this because it really messed me up in like very specific ways. As for my TBR, I think my top one right now is Act Your Age, Eve Brown, which is the third and final installment of the Brown Sisters series.
If you could have a drink with any one person, dead or alive, who would you choose to have a drink and a chat with? Thanks.
Oh,
Lord.
fantastic question. The specific person that I would like to have a drink with is Truman Capote, because he wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood. And In Cold Blood is so fascinating because he wrote it about someone who was a murderer, but he also had a very deeply personal relationship with the person who was the murderer. So it's very interesting, like, does he sort of excuse this person or write about them sympathetically because they were somewhat emotionally attached to him? Or alternatively, did he just get close to this person so that he could learn about their story? Because I think he only published it after the murderer had died. So very complicated, very interesting. And he would have no time to think about his food because I would be asking him questions the whole time.
Oh my God, what a good answer. I think my answer would be, I mean, I could go with like a famous author, which I feel like would be so exciting and fun, but I'm going to go for the more sad route. And I wish I could have one last chat with my grandma who passed away when I was 12 because she was a literature professor and like the chair of her department. And if I could just check in with her and like tell her what I'm up to today and like try to make her proud. So, and talk about books. I feel like she, I was 12, so she's read all of the Don Quixote was her favorite book. And so I would have loved to like sit down and ask her about it and ask her to help me get through it because it's so long.
You're like, help me, please.
Hi guys, so my question is, how do you think the rising popularity of digital and audiobooks will affect authors? And how do you think physical books may become like as rare as cassette tapes in the future?
I love an audiobook so much. I think it's a really great way to consume more literature. And to make it part of your daily routine, like when you're walking around, when you're doing the dishes, when you're tidying your room, anything like that, it's such a good way of consuming more stuff. Equally, there's nothing better than holding a book in your hand and smelling it and being able to turn the pages and also fold down the pages and make notes and highlight things. Yes. You can't really do that with an audiobook as easily, right? So I love both in equal measure.
I absolutely agree with you. I actually will go up to bat for audiobooks until the end of time. I think that they're a joy. They're the best. And all you lose with a physical book is being able to hold it. I feel like with audiobooks, you like gain such a wonderful performance. And sometimes like your emotional connection with audiobooks is even stronger because of the performance that you got. So I love a good audiobook. I understand the question, but I just feel like too many people love physical books for them to ever really fully go away.
True.
I just think they're too meaningful. I hope they're around for the long haul.
So that we can keep doing long hauls.
Oh my God, good one. That was excellent. Wow.
I'm like ready to go at any moment. Yeah. My favorite audiobook that I've ever listened to was Slaughterhouse-Five, but narrated by James Franco. And it just elevated that book to a new level. That was really cool.
There's Jake Gyllenhaal narrates Great Gatsby. And then Rosamund Pike, who plays Jane in Pride and Prejudice, does Pride and Prejudice.
No.
I know. It was amazing. And then, of course, like she has different voices for each of the Bennett sisters. But then when Jane Bennett pops up, she's just her. And I was like, oh my God.
That's her moment. Amazing. I wish we hadn't answered that question because now my TBR is including books that I've already read, but now as audiobook versions. This is not productive for me.
I want to read classics, but I don't know where to start. Where do I start? What do I read first?
Not Bleak House.
You said cancel Charles Dickens.
Yeah, I said, you know what? I've only read Bleak House and I'm not excited for anything else. So
me too.
just skip it.
I've sort of been making YouTube videos about literature in pop culture. And for that, I would say some staples that if you wanted to get started, you could read would be a couple of Shakespeare plays, specifically like the tragedies if you can. Something by Homer, maybe like the Odyssey or the Iliad. They seem a bit intimidating, but also there's so many references to Greek mythology in literature. Or alternatively, Stephen Fry has a book called Mythos, where he basically tells those same stories, but in a really accessible way. So you could maybe do that and then Homer, take it easy at first and then dive straight in. 1984, Pygmalion, and Jane Eyre, I think, are three massive staples kind of in the canon. And being good at English is all about the facade and faking it till you make it.
Oh my God, yes, that is so true. But what's your favorite Shakespeare play?
Ooh, I think either Othello or Measure for Measure. I really love Measure for Measure. What's yours?
I'm just gonna leave the chat. Macbeth is probably my favorite. It was one of my first ones, and I was like, oh, there can be something like ghostly and creepy. This is fun.
That brings me on to an interesting question, actually, because I was thinking about the fact that we've both studied literature at university or college, or Noelle says grad school, which is so cool. During an English degree, you kind of encounter a lot of fellow English students. And I think that there is this interesting thing whereby whenever you discuss art in any capacity, whether that's paintings, music, literature, people will mention things that you haven't read or you haven't listened to or you haven't seen, and vice versa. And this is how, for me, I felt some sort of imposter syndrome when I started a literature degree, because I was like, oh my God, every book that someone mentioned that I hadn't read made me feel stupid. But then there would be a whole library of books I had read that they hadn't read. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. It's such a funny one. Do you think that you kind of encountered intellectual snobbery during your literature degree, or do you reckon it was a bit in your head?
I absolutely did. And I remember there was like in my first upper division. So like, when I was still getting my bachelor's degree, I was in a class, my first ever literature class, and someone was like, well, he's no Hemingway, right? And I hadn't read any Hemingway, and I still haven't. So I was like, I remember everyone in class kind of laughed, and I was like, oh, I must be too stupid for this. And so I miss out on a lot, but exactly what you were just saying, like you don't know it all, but you do know some things. And I think that was my problem, was that I thought because I don't know everything they're talking about, I'm stupid, when really it's like, well, no, you just don't know everything they're talking about. And like no professor knows every single book, and every professor had to start somewhere. They were also a high school student at some point. So I think that really helped me just kind of be like, well, I might not know everything about Hemingway, but I know a fair amount about Jane Austen or like whatever, there's other categories that I know about. And so it was just kind of waiting for those moments where I could shine in class that would help me remember that I wasn't stupid. And
I think it's also important not to assign too much value to classics or the canon, because actually some of the most interesting literature I have ever read was not on the curriculum. It was all stuff that I discovered in my own time or just randomly picked up because the cover looked nice. Because listen, we can sit here and talk about don't judge a book by its cover, but I know that we all do.
Oh my God, my trademark, my brand. I mean, even if I love a book, if the cover sucks, I'm like, but did you really love a book? You know what I mean? I'm all about a good cover, so.
Hi guys, I love both of your videos so much. And I just wanted to ask if you could only recommend one book, what book would that be?
Oh, heavenly days.
Oh, goodness me. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood, because it's the book that I wrote my dissertation on. So I am biased. However, I think it's a really interesting narrative about one person's life. And also there's a lot of talk about minorities. And I think it's very relevant to read. So it's a book that I instantly fell in love with, and I think it's great. It's a masterclass in writing.
See, another one I haven't read. Again, do I even read books at this point? I'm confused.
But this is what I'm saying, right? Like, because you've got a whole bookshelf there of stuff that I probably never even heard of as well. So that's what's so exciting. I think there's something exciting about the fact that you can never actually read everything, because there's always something new to discover and also always something to discuss. There's this really nice Samuel Johnson quote about chasing the sun, and it's something you can never reach, but the whole time you're chasing it, you're sort of basking in the glow and the warmth of that sun. So it's all about just enjoying the journey of discovering all of this amazing stuff. And I think that's how I see it, like in pursuit of it, but not putting too much pressure on yourself to actually burn yourself out and reach it.
Oh my God, you're gonna make my Pisces self cry right now. That was beautiful. That was, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many hours in today. What can I accomplish just by that very stunning quote?
How into astrology are you? Because could you guess what my star sign is?
Oh, dude, I don't know astrology at all, except for the fact that Pisces and Cancers cry a lot. I want to say Leo, but I don't think that's right.
Do you know what? I'm a Libra, and I thought you were about to say that. I almost pooped my pants then. I was like, no way. I walked into a party once, and someone literally straight away was like, I can tell you're a Libra. Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing.
That girl should make a booktube channel because she read me like a book.
1000%. Wow, that's incredible. One that I would recommend everyone would be The Song of Achilles. Because
what a book.
Right, it'll wreck you, and I think so many people are intimidated by it because it's Greek mythology, but it's so accessible and it's so beautiful. And everyone that I've talked to, and maybe it's just because they know that I like it, but I haven't seen anyone rate it under a 3 out of 5. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Me too.
Everyone loves it. So I just feel like there's adventure and there's love and there's relationships, and I just think it's so good across the board.
That's one of those books that 5 stars somehow just doesn't feel enough. It feels unjust to only give it 5 stars.
Yes, it's a piece of magic.
And also, what I love about that book is that the mythology is explained. Every time there's a new character introduced, it doesn't assume you already know their whole backstory and genealogy. It's like, it tells you exactly who they are and what they have done and what their characteristics are. Yes, for accessibility and not being a snob.
Yes, exactly.
Hey Jack, quick question. Do you keep your books in pristine condition? That's what I want to know.
The spine and the dog earing of the pages is such a contentious issue that people will literally go to war over. Mine are a mess.
Okay, thank God. I was like, oh no.
The thing I think is so nice about having a physical book is that you can just wreck it. And I love that it's mine, and every page that's been folded down is because it meant something to me. And it's sort of, the book almost tells the story of how much I loved it, because so many of my books are completely wrecked because I just couldn't stop reading them, and I would, take it on the bus with me, or I would like throw it in my backpack, and so it got all scuffed. I think there's something really magical about a destroyed book.
Yes, it's like a relic of reading, it's like this treasure, and it only makes sense to the owner.
Yes, yeah.
I love it. A good cracked spine, a good dog-eared page, a good highlight. I even like when I'm, if I'm taking a bath with a book, I'm almost tempted to just let it fall because I love a good water stain. When the pages are all crinkly and messed up, there's just something stunning about it. So I love it.
Wow, it's the chaotic energy for me.
How do you go about reading a book in like a day? You guys are very superhuman to do that.
I have such an obsessive and addictive personality that if I'm enjoying something or I set myself the task of reading a book, I will just not put it down. Equally, what I would say is remember that we make content out of reading books. And so we are in a privileged position where we can really focus on doing that. And it kind of sort of in a weird way counts as work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's in the same way that if you really had to get an assignment done, you would use your time to do that. But I always have more than one book on the go. I don't know if you have the same thing, but I think if I'm reading a particularly heavy book that is not necessarily in weight, but sometimes in weight, but in terms of subject area, some books that are just 100 pages are incredibly dense. And so I'll always try and have a really lighthearted book on the side, because sometimes you want to read, but not that.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's audiobooks. Even if I have the physical book, to listen to the performance while I'm reading it physically will help me stay engaged, because if I don't have an audiobook, it's really easy for me to be like, why not check Instagram instead, right? Like, I feel like when someone's performing, I don't want to put the book down. And I totally agree with you, Jack. I feel like there's part of it is like, well, if I don't finish this book, then what am I going to talk about in my next video? So it's like, there's this, added layer of pressure, but like it's good pressure because I already want to read it, but now I have like a stronger reason to finish it, you know? So I think audiobooks definitely help me, and just making the time for it. I actually just, I know it's silly, but I just saw this TikTok that was like, if you want to be more productive in your day, don't turn on your phone until you've done something for an hour when you wake up. And so I've been doing this thing for the last week or so where I will just keep my phone off and then go read something for an hour. Like I just know, like I don't have to log on to work yet. So I'm just going to go set it up for an hour or half an hour, however long it is. And if my phone's not on, then it's easier to get it done.
I've been doing something really similar. So there's this app called Alarmy. So just alarm and then a Y at the end. And on Alarmy, you can set it so that your alarm will only stop once you scan a barcode. So to me, if my alarm is going off, I'm going to snooze it because I am irresponsible, and it's a form of self-sabotage. My brain, when I'm trying to sleep, is a different person. Like, that's not me. I don't know who that person is, but productivity is not their friend. So I set the barcode to be the barcode of my book. So I have the book on a shelf on the other side of the room, and then I have to get out of bed, walk over to the shelf, scan the barcode, and then I swap the phone for the book, and then get maybe back into bed, but with the book.
Wow.
I say this as if I've been doing it for longer than just today. But it worked. It worked this morning.
I am getting that app. That sounds amazing.
My question is, what is one book you think should be compulsory reading in schools, and what is one book that everyone should read for fun or for leisure?
Wow, what a question. I am going to say Homegoing, which is a really wonderful book and covers so much ground, really diverse. Girl, Woman, Other is another example of a really diverse book that introduces you to so many different people within society who perhaps at a younger age you might not have encountered before. And I think it's really valuable to have their insights and for the author to put you in their shoes for a moment and walk a chapter in their shoes. In the UK, the curriculum is quite whitewashed. And when I went to university, I had to actively go out of my way to find books that were by more diverse people who didn't look like me, didn't have the same background as me. And that was the most valuable reading that I ever did.
I absolutely agree with you. It's the same exact thing in the United States. And actually for that, I would then recommend James Baldwin's If Beale Street Could Talk. I feel like Baldwin's writing is so just like, it's a masterpiece. Baldwin is just someone that should be a classic author that's required reading. And so I'm so excited to keep reading Baldwin. But I think that was a great way to start with Baldwin. And I think I'm going to read Go Tell It on the Mountain next by Baldwin.
I actually have a question for you on a similar sort of note, since we're talking about academic literature. Were there any things that you discovered at university or at grad school, things that were assigned to you as required reading that you would never have picked up before that you absolutely fell in love with?
What a great
Or was the trauma
question.
of having to study it too much?
Oh my God, no, that's excellent. You know, I think part of this answer would be Don Quixote because it is so long that I was like, I wanted to read it because it was my grandma's favorite, but I didn't want to read it because it was so long. And so the fact that it was forced to, like, it was an assignment and it is hilarious has been amazing. But I also think North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell was a book that I know, like, maybe I would have found it one day, but since it wasn't like Pride and Prejudice, I was like, oh, like I just didn't register for me. And so it was assigned for me. And it's like one of my favorite books of all time now. Actually, that's North and South. It's it's the Mills. Yeah.
So for anyone listening, so North and South is basically a book about the industrial north of England and the rural south of England. It's like a Victorian book, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That was me racking my brain to be like, which module did I study this in? But it's a really great book, and it has a really awesome, empowered female central protagonist. So that's a recommendation from us both. When I was at university, I was forced against my will to study myths and epic of the North, coming into contact with like Germanic myths and legends and Beowulf and Odin and Loki and Thor. And I thought that wouldn't interest me at all, but I loved it.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And that's what's really cool to me, is that you kind of encounter things by accident or because you have no choice. And then it ends up being something that really fascinates you. And that's why, for me, a literature degree is really a long-term investment into being great at dinner parties and having a personality, because you've always got something in your head that you can talk about because you've escaped to so many fictional worlds.
Hello guys, thank you so much for doing this. It's so much fun. My question would be, if you could have any author write a book about you and your life, who would it be and what would the title be? Thank you so much, and greetings from Switzerland.
Oh my god!
Well, what a question, and hello to Switzerland. My first thought went to Sally Rooney, because I know that she writes about university very well, and she also did an English degree, so I feel like she would get the struggle, because she also writes a bit about imposter syndrome and that idea of intellectual snobbery. So I think that she would understand where my head is at sometimes. In the sense of the stage of my life that I'm currently in.
That's a good answer, because I'm going to do Sally Thorne. So we got two Sallys.
Ooh.
Sally Thorne wrote The Hating Game. And I just feel like, that's like one of my favorite romances, but I feel like she is such like a bubblegum, candy sweet way of like writing. And I feel like I would want a book about me to be very sweet and funny, and exactly. So I would want it to feel like eating cotton candy, even though I don't like cotton candy, so that's funny. So
we don't need to mention that bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work for the simile.
Wow, you need simile. I have not heard that word in so long. Yeah, so Sally Thorne, I think, for the writing, but then what's the title of our books?
I think mine might be Walking into Glass Doors.
Oh my god!
You know when you think you know what you're doing, but then smack, no you don't.
Oh my god, that's so good. I'm thinking something with, because I'm a big fan of yellow, so I'm thinking like something with honey. But I just read Honey Girl, so maybe that would be too much of a rip off of that amazing title. I'm trying to think like honey.
So essentially, you're plagiarizing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Noelle, do you read more fiction or non-fiction, would you say?
It's got to be fiction. Although I do love a good memoir, especially when it's narrated by the author. Oh my god.
I agree. I recently listened to an audiobook of Educated by Tara Westover, and it wasn't narrated by her, it was narrated by a man. And I felt like there was some just weird disconnect there, because I felt like I didn't properly get the message of the book because of who it was narrated by.
Maybe there's different versions of the audiobook, but I swear when I listened to Educated, it was with the author's voice.
I think I listened to a cheap knockoff version.
I was like, wait a minute.
Busted.
There's Know My Name by Chanel Miller is a memoir I just finished. She is the woman that was the victim in the sexual assault case at Stanford. And so you're hearing it all from her perspective, and it's narrated by her, and you can just like hear her pain.
Oh, wow.
And she's just so strong in that novel and in the audiobook version of it. So I loved it so much.
Hey guys, hope you're okay. Happy birthday, Noelle. My question to you is, what has been the best book you've read this year?
Ooh.
Thank you so much. Mine is The Death of Vivek Oji. It is stunning and so sad. And I think it's the only 5 out of 5 I've given this year, I think.
Ooh.
But it hurts. It's beautiful.
It's so funny talking about things like that, where you're like, it was the saddest thing. It broke my heart and I loved every second.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually read The Vanishing Half and Song of Achilles right at the beginning of the year, and I loved both of those books a lot.
What a way to start the year. Wow.
I went in strong.
Yes.
And I might have peaked too soon.
What country have you wanted to visit because of reading a book about that country?
Wow. I know this is silly, but that book, A Fault in Our Stars, takes place in Amsterdam. Yeah, and I just remember like thinking that it sounded beautiful. So I was like, maybe one day I'll go there one day. So
But people stole the bench that they sit on.
What?
Yeah, this is why we can't have nice things. I swear, this pandemic is the earth trying to cleanse itself of us, because we're the problem.
Oh my god, that's nuts.
I've read quite a bit of Japanese literature recently because I am obsessed with Murakami. And I actually recently discovered that Murakami's daily routine is that he would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He would then work for 5 or 6 hours and then run a 10K. And it's like, this man is insane. But he wrote the most incredible literature. So you got to respect the hustle. I also did a module in South Asian literature, but a lot of it was Indian. And so because I've read so much Indian literature, I would absolutely love to be able to explore India. I mean, listen, we've got a whole list of destinations that we want to go to, but currently COVID-19 is doing the world tour that we want to be on.
Happy birthday, Noelle. Happy Wednesday, Jack. I was wondering, what is the weirdest thing you ever used as a bookmark?
Happy Wednesday, Jack.
Happy Wednesday, Jack. Oh, Jack's still here. Oh, you're still knocking about, are you? Weirdest thing I've used as a bookmark? Anything that is near me when I'm trying to keep that page open. You know when the doorbell rings and you will shove anything in that book to keep it open.
In the Bay Area of California, there's a hockey team called the Sharks, and I had this like 4-year-old like Sharks ticket. But I don't think that's weird. I just it was what I was using at the time. And I probably used candy wrappers and all of the things.
Okay, right. I think let's do one last question.
Okay.
What's it gonna be?
Hi, Noelle. If you had to recommend one King novel for Jack, what would it be?
Ooh, oh, love that question, because I need to read some Stephen King.
I mean, I gave it away earlier, but it's got to be Misery. It's just, you know, famous author that's been kidnapped by #1 fan. The #1 fan forces more narrative because she like tortures him into writing another part of his like series.
I wasn't sure for a moment if you were describing the plot or that you were planning on kidnapping Stephen King. Next vlog.
You're like, Noelle, they asked for a rec, not your plot in life. No.
Not your plans. Thank you so much to everyone for listening and watching. We appreciate you so much. I'm so pumped that we got to do this collab and that Stereo brought us together on this wonderful app. And you can follow us both over on Stereo and check out my other shows on here as well.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you for coming.
What a wonderful birthday.
Well, and the happiest of birthdays to you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being the most wonderful community in this time of isolation. Thank you for 300k, what the hell. A massive thank you to Noelle Gallagher for collaborating with me on this video. All of her links will be down below. Also, head to the description for the link to download Stereo, where you can check out this show in its entirety, as well as my show with ahhhh Elizobi about pop culture, and my talk with my former manager, Rachel Porter, about starting a YouTube channel and finding your niche. I love you all loads and loads, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.